Yeah, I mean, look, the anomaly of Ethereum has kind of such a depressed price relative to Bitcoin right now. That is really only there until somebody panics and suddenly the whole market corrects, right? Like, it's very, very, very clear that Ethereum is here to stay. It's a fundamental technology, and as soon as you get into the business of you can actually do tokenization of equity using Ethereum smart contracts in America legally, it becomes very, very, very clear that Ethereum is a big deal because you get, like $200 billion of assets get tokenized and chucked on the blockchain in the next 18 months after that goes bang, right? And Ian's point about you need the descriptions on there, you have to know what the token is and you have to know what you're legally entitled to when you buy the token. All of that stuff, Materium views itself as being positioned like we're probably the second or third car in that race behind people like Blackstone. And the difference between us and them is that we're decentralized and we're Ethereum native and we are small and cheap. Um, this whole set of structures, you don't really see the differentiating power of Ethereum until you can do the tokenization of equity using it. And when that happens, that is when I would expect the massive sort of price breakout to happen for Ethereum. But more than that, okay, price breakout. I don't speculate. I don't advise on coin prices, but that's kind of where Ethereum begins to really show its colors. More fundamentally, once you could go through the entire economy and you could put a price tag on every single thing and make it tradable using the same rails, I could take your portfolio of 20,000 bicycles in New York and I can make those directly tradable for a bunch of agricultural land in Tennessee that somebody's growing carrots on. Once you could tokenize those kinds of things and then make those things exchangeable with each other, what happens is you get a sort of third entry to the fundamental instruments of value, right? You've got fiat stuff, you've got gold and other asset-backed stuff, and then you've got things like Bitcoin and Ether and these kind of crypto fiat assets. If you see 25,000 new hard asset-backed tokens enter the marketplace, the carrying capacity for that, if you've got $500 billion of US real estate in a tokenized ETF, kind of super REIT. Once you go down that track, instead of saying hyper Bitcoinization as an outcome, what you could see is hyper tokenization. The dollar inflates away by some absurd inflation rate, and nobody really notices because when you have any dollars, you just turn it into a tokenized hard asset, and then you sit in the tokenized hard asset, which is genuinely stable, and then when you need to transact, you flip back into dollars, and then you go back out again. So this kind of notion where people stop carrying wealth in dollars because of the enormous superabundance of tokenized hard assets. One of the ways that the Americans could potentially unwind their $35 trillion of national debt is by pricing all the hard assets in the ecosystem in a way that makes them exchangeable and then hitting the gas on the money printer until you could basically pay off the dollar debt with worthless dollars. And these kind of maneuverings, like, you think, my God, that's completely insane. Yeah, like in 1971 when they went off the gold standard, or 1933 when they seized all the gold in America, or 1913 when they decided that they had to directly tax your income from Washington, D.C. America survives by breaking its financial system and then doing something insane to escape the trap.